The following program is paid for by Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 7233. Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Gateway Mortgage Group. Contact your local branch for more information. You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, sponsored by Gateway Mortgage Group. Now in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome to the Money Hour at 11:50 a.m. KKNW, the February 4th show. I am your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. Each week I share expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events in our local economy and how it can affect your money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but I'm here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that I have on the show today. Please call at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And the lineup for the show today: Noelle Bortfeld, Chief Marketing Officer with Windermere Real Estate, how to market a listing. Also in studio, I have Hendon with Christine and Company, Keller Williams, the consequences of working with the wrong realtor. And last guest in studio, Michael Chafee with International Business Solutions, keeping and growing wealth in 2017. Great information and great guest in studio. For more information on any topic discussed or topics you'd like to hear on future shows, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And let's start out with a little money chat.
Money.
The reason behind the shortage of appraisers. What's going on with the appraisals and the appraisal market? The shortage of appraisers causes home sale delays. Housing demand is rising rapidly, but the key cog in the wheel is homeownership is in deep trouble. It's the people who needed to close the deal are disappearing. It's the appraisers, the men and women who value the homes and who mortgage lenders are depending on are shrinking in numbers. That is causing growing delays in closings, costing buyers and sellers money, and in some cases, even costing them the deal. The share of on-time closings has dropped from 77% to 64% for loans backed by Fannie and Freddie Mac, according to Campbell Inside Mortgage Finance. Appraisal-related issues in these delays jumped by 50% in that time frame. Since 2007, when the U.S. housing market came crashing down, the number of appraisers has shrunk by 22%, according to the Appraisal Institute and Industry Association. With so few new candidates, the current population of appraisers is aging. More than 60% are over the age of 50. Now, ironically, the decline in the new appraisers is largely due to new regulations designed to safeguard both banks and borrowers. They were put in place at the end of 2008 by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA, as the entire mortgage banking community was under strict scrutiny after the financial crisis. They changed the rules that would allow appraisers, apprentices, to do full appraisals and instead required the licensed appraiser to be on site for that inspection. So the result is the appraisers no longer see the need to pay apprentices, but at the same time, licensing requirements to become an appraiser include 2,500 hours of appraisal experience to be completed in 2 years as an apprentice. So the typical appraiser, he's going to do approximately 10 to 15 appraisals a week. For him to be able to take a trainee, he needs the ability for the trainee to go ahead and inspect the property for him. The rules have changed now, and you cannot do what you used to be able to do in 10 years ago, which is to hire 3 of the 4 trainees and really have them go out and inspect the properties, go to work for you, and really function as an apprentice. So the market has completely eliminated that. In some of the nation's hottest housing markets where sales are up in double digits compared to a year ago, the shortage means searching far and wide for an appraiser. So valuations are becoming really important as the house prices are gaining. The problem is if it's taking longer for the appraisers to get out the property and do those appraisals, the value could be changing during that period of time. So it could be a significant issue. So the challenge that we're having with the appraisals and the delays as a consumer, just know that the cost for an appraisal has increased. And I've said for years, it's the appraisers really deserve to get a raise. Everybody seems in the industry that they're making more money with the increase in values, but the appraisers their fees have been set for many years. So the increasing fees that the appraisers have now is actually a good thing. Plan on paying for a rush appraisal. If your mortgage professional asks if you want to pay a rush, say definitely yes, because I'll tell you, getting that appraisal back in a 2-week period versus getting the appraisal back in a month can be a huge deal breaker in being able to keep that deal together. So again, there's a lot of cost, there's a lot of risk with the delay appraisals, lock extensions, issues with the value. So keep that in mind. And that's a little behind the scenes of what's happening with the delayed appraisals. So that's the Money Chat for today. Coming up next on the Money Hour, how do you market a listing? Noelle Bortfeld is Chief Marketing Officer with Windermere Real Estate right here at 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.
Go where you want, when you want. With a Banner Bank connected checking account, you can use any ATM in the world for free. That's any ATM, anywhere. Think of it as your freedom to explore. Banner Bank. Let's create tomorrow together. Unlimited surcharge rebates from non-banner-owned U.S. ATMs. Banner Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Have you recently purchased a home and are wondering how you can make it your home with a fresh new design on a budget? If so, we have the answer. Go visit the Design Center at Staging and Design Network. You'll have access to award-winning design services, new and used furnishings at up to 50% off retail, and membership is only $60 a year. They work with thousands of interior designers and professional home stagers. They also create model homes for high-end builders. Go online to staginganddesignetwork.com, all spelled out, and become a wholesale member, or visit their showroom in Kirkland. The address and directions are listed on their website. It's located in an industrial park where you would never expect. You'll consider Staging and Design Network a hidden treasure after your first visit.
This is Tricia Tomlinson with Staging and Design Network. Our phone number is 425-272-4430. That's 425-272-4430. And you can find us online at www.staginganddesignetwork.com, all spelled out.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, February 4th show. I am dedicated to my listeners, providing you with the tools needed to make informed decisions on all matters that affect your money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but you can always call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And in studio right now, Noelle Bortfeld, Chief Marketing Officer with Windermere Real Estate. And Noelle, thank you so much for coming back in studio.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to be back.
Always had pleasure to have a conversation with Noelle. And a little background, if you've missed her previous segments. Noelle, again, is Chief Marketing Officer and is responsible for all consumer marketing activities on behalf of Windermere. She oversees branding, advertising, interactive and direct marketing, lead generation, program management, social media, public relations, and even marketing. Her experience includes brand marketing for Fortune 500 company as well as global agencies. She also leverages a leadership background in web application development and consumer relationship management, CRM. Recently, Noelle made Boston Logic Top 10 to watch. Noelle, again, thank you. Just really excited to have our conversation. And our topic today is going to be how to market a listing. So, Noelle, tell us about the types of products and services that you've marketed in the past.
Well, let's see. About 30 years ago, I started my career at Nestle, and I was privileged enough to work on infant formula, which we got to launch in the United States. I also worked on Contadina tomato products and was able to launch Contadina Pizza Squeeze, which I still buy to this day. So that was a very fun product. And I also worked on Nescafe and Taster's Choice. And then later on in my career, I spent a lot of time working with Hewlett-Packard.
So a lot of marketing experience, definitely. So let's talk about marketing a listing. Everyone knows about the 4 Ps of marketing. How do you apply them to marketing a listing? Let's go ahead and start out with product.
Okay. So yes, there's a product, price, place, promotion, and kind of the way the consumer packaged goods industry frames it. So I try and bring that same framework and bring it to the real estate industry. So from a product standpoint, when you think about it, you're talking about a listing or a home. And that can come in the form of anything from staging the actual product or the listing, creating some improvements, doing some repairs, actual curb appeal, when people just drive up into the neighborhood, how the home is showed, whoever's holding the open house, how does that person talk about the product? And also there's the whole element of inspections. That's going to affect your product. So we really try and think of all those levers when we think of product.
So Noelle, what about price? I mean, that's got to be really, really important, and not just in a market to where there's not a lot of activity going on, but it's as important, if not more important, it's as important, if not more important than the market that we're in today, when you think price might not really even matter that much, when it does, because we all want to maximize the price. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Tina. I think you have to look at market conditions, and if you look at it locally, prices have been rising, and we're short on inventory. And so things like market conditions can very much affect how a realtor prices this home. People tend to do comparative market analysis as well. But again, that's just one data point in the pricing mix. Sometimes people look at what's my return on my investment? How much equity do I have in this home? How will that affect the price? Can I walk away? What's my breaking point? What do I need to maybe cover some other expenses? They also look at some of the price drops that might be happening in other areas. Yes. Probably not so much in this market right now, but price drops do happen. Days on market is another factor. If your home is sitting there for 60 days, you might want to consider dropping the price. Another element of pricing is just looking at the other homes and what the listing price was versus what the actual sales price was. So you look at that ratio. And so if people are selling it for like 95% of asking price, you might start to think about, what is your asking price and how does that compare?
Makes sense. So Noelle, how about place distribution?
So distribution, that's probably the simplest. That's how listings are actually distributed across the web. If you can think about how all the MLS then distributes those listings to Zillow or Realtor or to the brokerage's actual website. So that's a fairly straightforward one. The industry's done a great job with distribution. So consumers can find the listing somewhere online. That's not an issue really in this industry.
Let's get into the final, which is promotion.
Okay, that's a big one. I think a lot of agents will say, well, how should I market my listing? And I try to remind them of the 3 aforementioned Ps, because those are as important, but I think a lot of focus is typically on promotion. That can come in the form of photography, open houses, signage, brochures, direct mail, videos, actually very hot, floor plans, 3D tours. We're getting into some augmented reality, which is fun. Any kind of advertising as well, and that's really falls under promotion.
So let's talk about, I think, the most important thing to consider, which is really developing the plan and putting this all together.
Absolutely. I think the most important thing is to stop and think about who that potential buyer could be. I think we don't stop and think that this is actually the perfect home for this type of individual. And I think more thought has to be given to that.
And, when I've talked with you before, Noelle, we talked about, the stories and the importance of really putting together a story and that marketing plan. And when you know what that buyer is, when you know who that targeted buyer is, then you can really bring that story in. Because we are talking about selling a home, which is a style, and it's somebody's story is going to be told there.
Absolutely.
So how does someone develop an objective?
So I always think of objectives as being SMART, and I think everybody knows that acronym SMART, S for specific, M for measurable, A for actionable, R for realistic, and T for timely. So when people write their objectives, I'm really hoping that they're going to use SMART objectives, meaning here's an example, generate 3 qualified buyers in the next 30 days. That's very measurable. You're either going to get 3 qualified buyers or you're not.
Yes.
It's very easy to measure. And if it's within 30 days, you either did it or not. So really setting measurable objectives that are within a time frame, then you know whether you're going to be successful or whether you need to tweak your marketing plan.
And what about measurement? I mean, because we all know that's really important, is the measurement of that plan.
Yes. And a lot of times I think folks struggle with how to measure something. But in terms of tying them back to the objective itself, you think about, well, did I actually generate 3 new buyers?
Yes.
Or potential buyers? That's a yes or no.
Yes.
That's very easy to measure. Some other media is tougher to measure, but a lot of times you can think about, okay, what is the response mechanism that I want to add to this advertising so that I know what is the call to action.
Yes.
That way the metrics are a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, and when you have a targeted group that you're marketing, which is really the name of the game, and you have a lot of those touch points going in, those touch points do start to kind of mingle in, so it sometimes can be difficult. Can you talk about, let's going back to the audience and the potential buyer, can you give me an example?
Sure. I use this one in a class that I teach, the wealthy modern enthusiast who travels via private jet. Wouldn't we all like to be that person, right?
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah. You think of the, wealthy, it obviously speaks to their income. A modern enthusiast meaning they love all things modern architecture, modern furniture, just everything modern. But traveling via private jet, that's obviously talks about their lifestyle.
Yes.
This is just sort of one extreme. So in the class, sometimes I'll say, okay, here's your primary target audience. And maybe here's your secondary, the one that you think might be a potential buyer too. It might be a Chinese investor. Okay. So knowing those two, you could develop your objectives, your strategies, and your tactics.
So how does that affect the media that you're going to choose?
That's a great question. I think a lot of times you can look at that target audience and develop almost like if you think about a bullseye, in the center you have the tribe, the target audience. If you thought about those people that travel via private jet, maybe you would do your advertising in Velocity magazine, for example. Beyond the tribe, and that might be beyond that first very targeted concentric circle within that concentric circle, you can actually just think about, all right, where are the places I can meet with these people in person? Okay. Then you can start to pull out a little bit and say, all right, what kind of local advertising can I do to reach either one of those, the primary audience, the modern enthusiast, or the secondary, the Chinese person, the Chinese buyer? It could be looking at the Puget Sound Business Journal, which is a great local newspaper. Then you start to go, okay, how can I expand outward to maybe the Western United States? Maybe you need to be in Alaska Beyond, magazine. Then you get out to the international, global place. And maybe you're sending your listings to Juwai.com, which is a website that is targeted to the Chinese buyers. Okay,
so really focusing that all in. So how does geographic coverage play in the mix, Noelle?
Well, I think it does go back to that target audience. And international, if you don't have any reason to think that your buyer's coming from another country, then don't spend the money marketing your listing there. I think sometimes people try and just do the same things over and over again without thinking about really who is that potential buyer and how is the best way to reach them, or how can I reach like-minded people that will actually talk about this listing to the people that might hear about it through word of mouth. Yeah.
So since we're talking about marketing for a listing, and with all of the education and the training that you do for the real estate community, and especially within Windermere, what do you see as the primary mistake that is happening when marketing a listing?
I call it the spray and pray.
I was going to say
approach. Because it really just completely contradicts understanding who that potential buyer is and thinking about that and thinking about what kind of vehicles you would use to reach them. Spray and pray means you're just going out there with maybe a direct mail piece that just goes to everybody. in your database.
Yeah.
And you're not really thinking about, well, gosh, maybe some of those people in my database actually already just bought their home last year.
Yeah.
Why are they getting this
Got it.
information? So you have to be relevant to folks and not just put it all out there to everybody, because you don't want to appear irrelevant.
Yeah. So, and really, if I'm hearing you've got that target market, that target market and what people they are, and then pick the marketing things that you're going to do and put that out. But you do agree as well as sticking with, and I think a big challenge or a mistake that you see anybody make, any entrepreneur in the marketing, is they try something, it doesn't give them the results quick enough, and they give up. You've got to really be in for the long haul.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you do have to be able to pivot.
Yes.
Because if you aren't meeting your objectives, and a lot of times people just don't even write them down. If you write them down, and they do say within 30 days, you should put it in your little calendar. I'm going to look at my objectives in 30 days, and did I meet them or not?
Yeah.
And then
sense.
if I haven't, pivot.
So Noelle, with agents, because you're behind the scenes and seeing everything that's happening with agents, what are the challenges that they're dealing with right now, and what advice because I have a lot of agents that listen to the show, and what would be your advice for the challenge?
Boy, get really creative with ways to encourage your sellers to sell right now. I think sellers now have the equity that they might have lost.
Yes.
So it's time to talk to them a little bit about that. I think the challenge also for them is to find the next place for them.
Yes.
With inventory being short, it's hard to get your clients to really think about what is that next step if it's hard to buy right now, right?
Yeah.
The easiest ones are folks that are willing to maybe retire and go to that second home in a different market.
Yes. Well, and I've got a complimentary coaching program I do for realtors, and somebody had just brought up a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was just a brilliant marketing idea. She does a lot of cold calling with expireds, but she said she goes back to people that it expired like 2 years ago. Because now they've got equity. They were looking at selling, and maybe it just wasn't the right time because the equity wasn't there. And I thought that was really brilliant, because there are people out there that need our services, and it's finding those people and connecting with them and finding out what their needs are and how you can be that solution for them. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Noelle, thank you so much for joining me back in studio. It's always a pleasure to have you, and I really appreciate you coming in and spending time with me.
Thank you so much, Tina. Great to see you again.
Coming up on the Money Hour, what are the consequences of working with the wrong realtor? Well, we have Hendon with Christine and Company Keller Williams right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.
Are you on a tight budget? An Old Republic Home Protection Plan protects your budget from unexpected and expensive system and appliance breakdowns. You pay a reasonable trade call fee for service on covered items. Old Republic has been shaping the home warranty industry since 1974. They have built an outstanding reputation on providing dependable caring service you can rely on.
Hi, this is Gene Roberts with Old Republic Home Protection. Please give me a call today to learn more about our home warranty product or to order protection for your own house. Call 1-800-282-7131. Again, that's 1-800-282-7131, and my extension is 1329.
Go where you want, when you want. With a Banner Bank connected checking account, you can use any ATM in the world for free. That's any ATM, anywhere. Think of it as your freedom to explore. Banner Bank. Let's create tomorrow together. Unlimited surcharge rebates from non-banner-owned U.S. ATMs. Banner Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
As a real estate broker, are you tired of belonging to an office where your designated broker doesn't have time for you? Kelsey Diller, designated broker with City Closers Real Estate, personally meets individually with the brokers to coach their business development and gives out leads. How would you like to make more sales and take your business to the next level this year?
If you're ready to be considered for joining the winning team at City Closers, call me, Kelsey Diller, today at 206-554-1622 or visit us online at cityclosers.com.
Kelsey Diller is a licensed real estate broker in the state of Washington, owner and designated broker of City Closers, LLC, located in downtown Seattle.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to The Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here at 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, February 4th show. I've built a network of elite industry professionals, each week sharing their knowledge and expertise with you, my listeners. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. To talk with myself or any guests that are in studio today, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio right now, I have Aaron Hendon with Christine and Company in Keller Williams. Aaron, first time coming in and having a chance to chat with you in studio. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Tina. I'm really excited to be here.
And a little bit about Aaron. Aaron is Seattle Realtor, real estate investor, author, educator, and speaker. He's a managing partner of Christine and Company and Seattle Magazine, awarded 5-star real estate agent, winning team for the past 5 years, and individual rising star in the Seattle real estate winner this year. Bringing together a diverse background and history, including transformational leadership, entrepreneur, startups, and traditional cold calling sales, Aaron and his team consistently outperform the local market, selling homes for over 5% more than local market averages. So I think it's exciting to hear about that. I mean, if you've got numbers and backing statistics to show what amazing job that you're doing out there in the market, and that's kind of what our conversation is a little bit about today, is the consequences of working with the wrong realtor. So when selecting a real estate agent, the numbers that people normally focus on, and what numbers should they focus on instead? So what are you seeing that they put their focus on and where it should be?
Well, I think a lot of times when you talk to a realtor and you ask them how their business is, or you talk to realtors, they'll talk about the number of units they've sold, or they'll talk about the volume of the units, right? How much all those houses were worth. I've sold 60 units this year, or that was for $30 billion or whatever. And I think to a certain extent it matters. I mean, you want to know that the person sells enough houses, that they're productive, that they're doing it full time. But why is that important to me as the consumer? How much money you made? That's not the number that matters to me. I think the number that people would be better off asking is, they'd be better off asking the question, what's important to me as the seller?
Okay.
What's important to me as a seller is generally when confronted with actually asking that question, they generally come up with, I want to sell my house for the most money in the least amount of time.
Yes.
Probably with the least hassle to me, right? Throw that in. Okay, then you should ask the person you're interviewing, all right, well, relative to the market, how much over asking price do you sell houses for? And compared to the local market averages, how many days are you on market? You know, how is your performance consistent with reaching my goal? Not, yay, you sold 100 units, yay, you. But how does that impact me as the consumer? And I think that's the question people want to ask. The number they want to know is, how much over average? Yeah, how much over asking price are houses going for in this market, and how do you do relative to that? And how many days on market average are houses on market, and how do you do compared to that?
Makes sense. So, Aaron, the real cost working with the wrong realtor, how would you answer that question?
Well, you know, I mean, if you just take our example of 5% over, and median price in this market is $500,000, more or less, a little bit more than that, but that's a $25,000 difference. That's one thing. And I can't imagine that anyone who's been, you know, following the market or looking at houses regularly doesn't see houses that have sat there for 30 days, 40 days. And you wonder, why has that house sat there for that long, or what happened there? And that every month someone's paying mortgage, every month someone's paying the insurance and all that stuff, and now they're not going to get the full value of the house because it's 60 years old and it looks stale. So the real cost of work of the wrong realtor is in dollars and cents, and it $10,000 here and $10,000 there to butcher a phrase, and pretty soon you're talking about real money.
Yeah, it makes sense. It adds up quickly. So let's talk about interviewing for a real estate agent, because we know, being in the industry, and I know on the mortgage side as well, there's not a lot of interviewing that goes on to really sit down and ask the right questions and find out if that person's going to be right. Why do you think that is? Well,
I think there's a context that people operate in that they're, like all context, it's invisible. You can't really see it. And, sort of the analogy I use as a man in this culture, if I go get my car if I take my car into the shop and the guy tells me that the serpentine belt needs to be tightened, I don't have permission to say, I don't know what a serpentine belt is. I'm a man. I'm supposed to know that. I'm just supposed to know what a serpentine belt is. I don't know why I'm supposed to know that. I mean, fine. I think people think they're supposed to know things about houses. You know, they watch a ton of HGTV and they see this stuff and they think they're just supposed to know. And so consequently, they don't ask because people would rather, you know, like I said, drink hot lava than look stupid. And so they rather than ask questions, they just nod and smile, and they take their cousin's best friend's nephew's aunt who's a realtor, and that's good. Or they met that nice guy at the open house, they're good. Or that guy on Redfin looks nice, and he's got, or on the, you know, a lot of stars next to his name. Let's just pick him. Yeah. Because we don't know what to ask anyway, and how are we going to find out? Yeah. So really interviewing and making sure that you know the questions that you need to ask to find out if that's going to be the right person to represent you in such a huge purchase. So let's talk about discount brokers and discounted companies. Not to completely take that away from a company, because every company has a way that they do business, but why might not that be the right thing, or the right company to go with, or trying to negotiate someone's commission down to pay less? What would be? Those are two great questions, and just handle them separately for a second, because so discounts in general. I mean, you know, I was in sales for many, many years, and you know, discounts in general, not real estate, in business. Real estate is not particular like this. A discount. Almost always, and I can't think of a case where it's not one of these two things. A discount either indicates that the product itself will not garner full price in the marketplace. Somehow the quality of it is not sufficient to gather full price. That's why you offer a discount, or you're going to make it up on volume. Got it. One or the other, like Costco. Nothing wrong with Costco volume, right? And Costco products, but they make less money per unit because they sell so many more units. There's no really other reason why you would give a discount other than you either couldn't get full price or you had so many of the units you were going to make it up. And, you know, when you get a discount broker, I think you're getting someone who, look, obviously I'm biased. So, hello, you know, I'm a full price broker, so you take this with a grain of salt. But look, if someone could get 3%, they'd go out and get 3%. If that person's charging you 1.5%, you got to be really clear. Why would they not get 3% if they could? Sure. Normally, I say discounted price equals discounted service in a normal situation. So let's talk about negotiation and, you know, trying to negotiate your realtor's commission. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, if someone negotiates their realtor's commission down, generally they're pretty happy with themselves, but no one's really thought it through, because that person just, you know, they went from 3% to 2%. Yeah, you got 1%, but that's you who, you know, if you're average buyer or seller, you sell a house once every 10 years. You don't do this every day. You just negotiated with someone who theoretically does this every day, and you just beat them in a negotiation. Congratulations. Now you're going to pay that person 2% to represent your interests against someone who does this every day. And if you were able to negotiate them down for their money, I think they're going to have a pretty good, you could bet they're going to negotiate your money away pretty quick too. Sure. So you got to look at it. I'm not saying don't ask. I'm just saying watch how the negotiation goes. Because if you got it really easy, I promise you they're going to give away your money really easy when the time comes. Yeah, got it. So why might it not be the best plan always in choosing an agent by looking at how many signs that they have out? Well, I think in the market. Yeah, I mean, because so much of marketing in general is mind share, right? And and the way realtors work is mind share. I mean, way any business works, not just realtors. You know, if they can capture mind share, they win. You know, if you name a potato chip, it's Lay's. If you name a shoe, it's Nike. If you name toothpaste, it's Crest. It's mind share. So by putting up signs all over the place, right? People, you know, they see ads in the newspaper and they see signs up in the yard, and that's what they need to do to get the mind share. But in the meantime, it still doesn't answer the fundamental question: is that person actually performing better? Sure. Because if nobody interviewed them, that just means they won the mind share game, and it doesn't indicate anything really other than they got there first. And that's the one thing that realtors count on, is that 85%, somewhere between 70 and 85% of people will hire the first realtor they talk to. And so the realtors are incentivized to be fast, not good.
Yes.
But fast. So if they get there first, they're going to win. And if they have enough mind, and which also incentivizes them to overprice your list. If you think your house is worth $500,000 and they think your house is worth $450,000, they're incentivized to go ahead and take the listing, because now their sign is in their yard, in your yard, and they're there first in the mind of all the people that drive by and all the people that call, and whether your house sells or not at the price they agreed to, they've already got business from your listing, even not selling. So it's the best bet would be for you to treat the home sale, your home sale or your home purchase, like a business. And if you're out to hire someone for a business, what do? What's the first thing you do if you're out to hire someone you own a business?
Interview.
You interview them.
Yeah, of course.
You interview them. What is the big deal? You actually ask them a series of questions. They maybe fill out an interview form, or see a resume. You call references. That people don't do that with realtors is crazy making to me.
Well, it is. And I think you've brought in a good point. I think volume and having a number of deals that they've done is important because you have to know that they're successful in this industry.
Very much so.
If you get the stats on their performance, I think that is awesome. Also, we know with a connection with somebody, whether we're connecting with that person or not, if they're going to be the right fit for us. And you said the references, I think that's huge, really being able to have conversations and read reviews of people that they've worked with before. So, Aaron, how does the asymmetry of information in real estate transaction impact the way consumers behave?
Well, I think it goes back to the thing about the context of how people operate. The asymmetry information is that the realtor knows more about the business than you do. Now, there's Zillow and there's Redfin and there's great resources online. So people are educated to a higher degree than they have been in the past. But still, you don't read WebMD and pretend you're a doctor. You don't read Zillow and pretend you're a realtor. You just don't have the same level of information.
Sure.
So that the realtor knows more about, like that thing I said about overpricing a listing. In the industry, it's called buying a listing. You buy a listing. You say, yeah, sure, I'll sell it for $500. People do that. But the consumer doesn't know that people do that.
Yeah.
The consumer doesn't know.
Yep.
The consumer doesn't know that the realtor actually stands to make money whether they sell your house or not. True, they won't make money from the commission on your house, and you will lose money. But they gain mind share, and they gain any buyer that calls on your house, calls that sign call.
Sure.
So that's an asymmetry of information that people are unaware of, which would get handled if they interviewed people and they saw, because that person took a $500,000 listing. And they sold it for $450,000, they're now selling it under their list price.
Sure.
That would show up in their statistics when you get asked the question, how do your statistics compare to local market averages? They'd have to stop doing that.
Yeah, got it. So, Aaron, a realtor that's in this full-time versus part-time, and I know that there's a lot of part-time, and it depends on the market that we're in and the environment, whether you have more that are doing part-time than full-time. Talk about the importance of working with an agent that actually is doing this as a full-time career versus just a hobby.
Yeah, well, you got to look to see. You're the one doing the hiring. So do you want to hire a hobbyist or do you want to hire someone who's a professional? It's totally up to you. Look, that person who's a hobbyist, they could potentially do fantastic for you, but this is your money and your time. And if they're not selling, I don't know, one house a month, 12 a year, 15 a year, they have to be doing it part-time, and which means they have some other way of making money, which means I would begin to think maybe they're not going to work as hard for it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for joining me in studio. It was a pleasure having a conversation with you, and look forward to having you back.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Tina.
Coming up next on the Money Hour, how do you keep and grow wealth in 2017? Michael Chafee with International Business Solutions right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.
Are you overwhelmed by insurance commercials pulling at you to buy their products? Are you trying to figure out what you should buy and who best to buy it from? Welcome to agentreview.net. Finally, the best way to find the best insurance from the best agents. Agent Review provides consumers unbiased advice on common forms of insurance and highlights local agents whose credentials have been independently verified. We are the only online review company focusing only on insurance, education, and verified agents. Go today to www.agentreview.net and register as an agent or find resources as a consumer. Call 206-240-8274 or email Janet at agentreview.net for more information.
Hi, I'm Janet Grayling, the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Agent Review. Please give us a call at 844-824-3687. That's 844-824-3687.
Go where you want, when you want. With a Banner Bank connected checking account, you can use any ATM in the world for free. That's any ATM, anywhere. Think of it as your freedom to explore. Banner Bank. Let's create tomorrow together. Unlimited surcharge rebates from non-banner-owned U.S. ATMs. Banner Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, February 4th show. I am here to empower our community, providing you with opportunities and solutions when it comes to your money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com to discuss anything regarding money. Chat with the guests that I have in studio. Right now, I have Michael Chafee with International Business Solutions. Michael, another first-time guest in studio. Thank you so much for coming in and joining me.
Thank you so much for having me in today.
And a little bit about Michael. Michael is founder of International Business Solutions, LLC in Woodinville. He's a licensed CPA with 27 years in public and private accounting experience. His expertise focused on improving businesses' operations in addition to oversees the portfolios of high net worth individuals. Michael is happy to have helped clients use the same tools to retain capital as high net worth individuals use when they fit correctly. He also provides tax services and individual businesses, trust, and estates. And Michael, today we're talking about keeping and growing wealth in 2017. And I would think that would be a pretty exciting thing to think about doing. So in 2016, year's over, and it's time to call the accountants in to find out what the wounded is and what's happened. And is there any for our listeners that can do now in 2017 to improve the outcome of their tax filing?
Well, thank you for the question. There are a couple things that people can do. One of my favorites is they can still contribute to their IRA account at this point, all the way through April 15th. And as you may note, we are just a little bit late for filing a estimated tax payment on January 15th. That is kind of my second favorite thing to do for clients that may be a little bit behind the eight ball. A lot of times clients have real estate transactions, stock transactions, a significant self-employment income during the year that was unanticipated. And catching up on January 15th is a great thing to do. But let's flip back to the IRA concept. And people need to pay more attention to saving for their own retirement these days. And actually, it's not just these days. It's been that way for quite a while since the disappearance of the conventional pension plan and so forth. And a lot of people don't take into account that if you miss your IRA contribution this year for through April 15th for 2016, you don't get a redo.
Yes.
You're done. And the amounts are really quite small when you look at what it's going to take you to retire. That makes it just all that much more important that people make this a priority in their spending.
Yes. So, Michael, you have a background as controller and CEO for commercial real estate management firms in Puget Sound area. What experience can you share with our listeners that may be thinking about buying a home?
Well, I like to tell people, listen to the experts like the two wonderful folks that were on before me.
Yes.
And they will usually tell you to pay attention to the location. I find this to be even more valuable in the Puget Sound area, and even more so today, primarily because our transportation infrastructure is, well, subpar is about the most generous thing.
Has some challenges.
Right. Okay. Has a challenge. That's even more charitable. Thank you for that. And, if you're going to live anywhere past walking distance from work, pay big attention to that. That's going to be very valuable to you. And another concept I like to bring up is, go for it if you've done your homework. But when you look at a home, if you're looking at it and you don't know if it's in a good neighborhood, one that's well taken care of and going to maintain that status, or is it going downhill? If you don't know that kind of thing, you haven't done your homework. You really need to go back and kind of start over on that concept, because as much as people like to talk about the American dream being home ownership, and I won't get into what I think the American dream is, but at any rate, they talk about this is going to make their life just so much better. Well, if you locate in an area where the traffic is already bad,
yes,
and traffic continues to go the way it has been going and get worse, what good is it to own a home when you're away from it for, say, 3 hours to start with, and 2 years from now it takes you 5 hours to make the commute? It's just not a great idea. And I would say, people also need to think about the tax code is really friendly right now so far as buying a home and watching it appreciate as you live there. And you get a generous exclusion on the sale for the gain.
Yes.
And I think people look at that as kind of irrelevant, but in fact it's really relevant, because it makes a lot of difference not to send the money to the United States Treasury, but to keep it and work it for yourself.
There you go. So, Michael, with your helping your clients in doing their accounting and with everything that's happening in the Puget Sound market, what are you advising as far as investing in rental properties, getting in the investment market?
Right. I see a lot of people that have that idea, and I have to really sit them down sometimes and ask them, what are your alternatives? What's available to you besides real estate, and what is your motivation for entering the world of being a landlord? And I kind of boil it down to a few things, such as, location. One of the big things that we've seen in the Puget Sound lately is the city of Seattle seems to know quite a lot better than the landlords how to screen clients and how to just require them to take the first acceptable client, and things that are kind of contrary to the capital market theory. So the location is a big thing, and I also talk to people about liquidity, and they quickly tell me, well, I can get a loan against it if I need the money. And I say, well, yes, you can, and that's all fine and good. And I know quite a few people that might be able to help you out with that. But it's not like calling up your brokerage firm and saying, send me a check for $10K. I really need to buy my wife a new car. It's not that kind of a thing. Another valid concept is management. Who's going to be getting the calls in the middle of the night when there's a flood?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And who's going to screen those clients, and how tightly are they going to screen those clients?
So it's like everything else that you're investing in. You want to really make sure that you understand what that investment is, what the pros and cons are, and see how it's going to fit within your overall financial picture.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because the other two things I like to have people think about before they jump in is the cash flow. And people will tell me, it's okay if I lose $50, $250. It depends on who it is, obviously, what their threshold is. But they tell me it's okay to lose a little bit of money. I'm not going to get rich. I'm going to make my money on the capital appreciation here. And I say, that's great. Did you factor in the management cost you're going to have?
Sure.
And the maintenance cost you're going to have if you're not doing it yourself? And if you are doing it yourself, what are you living without?
Yes.
Are you
so it's running the numbers, making sure that the numbers come out favorably, and that you're understanding all the costs associated to having that asset. So, Michael, what about distributions? Are there distributions in store for 2017? I mean, you may have said, what the market is supposed to be. I might have listeners saying that with Trump coming in, there's supposed to be a crash coming up. Maybe, maybe not. But what are your thoughts?
Well, that's a great question, and clearly there are going to be big changes based on the election. And like a great deal of other intelligent questions, it really depends. Many people think that their crystal ball is the only one that has the right answer, but their track record indicates that their crystal ball really isn't that great. So I look at what's been promised, and the promises of lower taxes and regulations, less regulations, that's a prescription for growth. And that's kind of a double-edged sword I'd like to talk about at another juncture, perhaps.
Okay.
But I really think that the leaving taxes high and regulations increasing over the past 28 years or so has pretty much slowed down our economy to what I call an unsustainable pace. We have bigger issues that result from that. So I'm just hoping that trade policy, we've heard headlines about taking hard lines against some good trading partners, and Puget Sound really needs that trade to continue along. And that's going to keep the housing market healthy and the job market healthy. So I've got my fingers crossed. So either way, there are going to be disruptions, and I'm hoping that they'll be positive.
Yeah, we'll have to wait. We'll wait and see with all the changes what positive and not so positive might come out of it. So converting to an S corporation to save money, what would be your advice on that, Michael?
Well, a lot of people think that you can save money when you're not making any money, and that's a little bit upside down. The conversion to an S corporation really makes a lot of sense when people are making consistent money as a sole proprietor or an LLC. And for people that are not familiar with LLCs and entities and sole proprietors and corporations, and an S corporation, an LLC, and a sole proprietor all flow through into the individual's tax return. The thing about S corporations that is saving people money is the lack of self-employment taxes that you pay on your distributions. And so I generally ballpark those self-employment taxes at 10%, and there's kind of a Rubik's Cube as far as you get to pay 15.3%, and you get to take a credit against your income of 7.65%. And assessing yourself a tax on your gross income versus reducing your gross income by half that amount does not translate to a number right in the middle. And so 10% is where I just ballpark it so I can do the math in my head. But if you consistently make about $100,000 as an S corp or sole proprietor, an LLC or a sole proprietorship, it begins to start to pay off to become an S corporation, put yourself on payroll for reasonable compensation, and then take those distributions free of self-employment tax, which saves you on $50,000. My math says that's about $5,000. And, there is a cost to that. There's a little bit greater administration if you're not currently doing payroll. That takes time or money, and that's why I figure right around $100,000, you start to save money being an S corporation instead of a sole proprietorship or an LLC.
So what are you seeing with your clients right now, Michael, or clients that I guess maybe are not your clients that makes mistakes that they're making that's going to cost them a lot of money? So as I wrap up my time with you, what would be your shout out to my listeners to avoid?
The biggest thing I think people should avoid is making decisions based on tax policy.
Okay.
I think I see a lot of people that pick up headlines and they seize them as if they're gold or platinum, and they don't quite think things through. Every transaction people get involved in, they should look at based on the merits of the transaction itself, and only on a kind of a secondary level look at the tax situation as a perhaps a gotcha. But don't put the cart in front of the horses in this example. So that's my greatest little morsel of advice for people.
Wonderful. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining me in studio. I appreciate your time and your expertise, sharing it with my listeners.
Thank you.
And this is your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, signing off for the day. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'll be here same time, same place next Saturday, right here on 1150 AM KKNW.
The preceding program was paid for by Gateway Mortgage Group, LLC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 7233. Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Gateway Mortgage Group. Contact your local branch for more information.